But why would you think about using Nutanix, right? Obviously, I'm biased as it relates to Nutanix, but not without good reason. About 7.5 years ago, when I came to work at Nutanix, and by the way, I'm based in North Texas, and more specifically in Fort Worth, not in Dallas. So I always got to call that out. But I came to work at Nutanix about 7.5 years ago. I was at Citrix for about 9 years before I came to work at Nutanix. And my introduction to Nutanix was trying to compete with Nutanix. Interestingly enough, I was on the strategic alliances team and I was working with HPE to develop a solution that could go head to head with Nutanix. So I did a lot of competitive intelligence stuff on behalf of HPE. And what I discovered was that Nutanix was a really, really great solution for running Citrix workloads. And as it turned out, that was primarily where Nutanix was positioned, and that was for virtual desktop infrastructure. And there was a reason for that. A lot of those reasons revolved around speed, resiliency, data locality, shadow cloning, all of these great things that Nutanix brought to the table that VDI customers and VDI workloads could highly, highly benefit from. But it didn't stop there. It kept going and extended into various other workloads that got a lot of value from Nutanix infrastructure. So I was very intrigued by this. And so when I left Citrix, I took a straight run at Nutanix, and here I am, and I've been here for 7.5 years, and I love it. But why many customers are looking at Nutanix is because customers are potentially looking at a move away from BHV, also known as ESX. The artist formerly known as ESX, I call it BHV lovingly. It means Broadcom hypervisor. I just made that up. But customers are looking at other hypervisors, AHV being one of them. And the good thing about AHV is it's completely integrated into the Nutanix stack. That means that there's no separate interface for managing AHV. There's no vCenter equivalent, this separate thing that scales on its own. It's all just built in, right? Think about AWS as an example, or think about Azure. Maybe not so much Azure, but think about AWS. What hypervisor do they use? Who cares? It doesn't matter because you're not managing the hypervisor. It just works. It just runs, right? Well, and I'll tell you under the covers, Nutanix AHV is based on KVM. And by the way, KVM is an open source hypervisor that is used by all of the hyperscalers, basically. Okay, and has all the features that you would expect it to have, and has over 1,100 validated solutions today. So you really de-risk this migration when you move to a hypervisor such as AHV, right? A hypervisor that comes from the modern era, a hypervisor that's born in cloud and facilitates a cloud operating model. But cloud operating model doesn't mean go to public cloud. Cloud operating model means leverage public cloud or something that's public cloud like wherever you might deploy infrastructure. Okay. So things that customers care about. I talked to a lot of customers at Nutanix. We've talked to a lot of customers, and there were these sort of five-ish things that kind of bubbled to the surface when talking to customers about what their concerns are. Like, where are their concerns, right? And those concerns are pretty much universal, right? And you could leverage these concerns as you're talking to various potential replacements for companies that have hypervisors. We're not the only one with a hypervisor. We have the best one, but we're not the only one. So you got to ask them these questions, various questions like, will I lose capacity capabilities that I have today? Am I going to be a guinea pig, right? Nobody wants to be a guinea pig. What's the learning curve, right? Is it easy? Is it hard? How painful will it be to move to this new thing? Should I decide to move my workloads over there? And then finally, will my apps run on it? And then I added one here. What about support and services, right? What does that look like? So we'll get into all of these things. We'll touch on these things. So starting from the top, will I lose any capabilities I have today? I'm going to say no. And I'm going to say no because I've been talking about this for several years now, right? We kind of dig into this. We compare the Nutanix cloud platform to the VMware stack. We've been doing these comparisons for a long time. Years ago, when people would say, you don't have this feature that VMware has, my response to that was, do you need that? Do you really need that? Right now, it's more of a when they say you don't have that, I say, well, that's because our solution doesn't require that, generally speaking, right? So, and then VMware went through this whole rebundling process. The first most interesting thing is that they got rid of free ESX. So then they took their packages and they combined them all. All the good stuff went into VVF and VCF. Most customers have a requirement or two that kind of push them into VCF, the highest tier package, but not everybody needs all of it, right? And let's be honest, there's no a la carte offering from vSphere Enterprise. And customers they look at this and they go, well, I don't need all that. I just need a hypervisor. Right? Well, what is just a hypervisor in VMware terms? When you look at what is included in just the hypervisor from a VMware perspective, there's a whole lot of stuff missing, a whole lot of stuff that you might want, like I don't know, HA, DRS, GPU support. None of that exists in just the hypervisor. So be careful when you say to VMware, all I need is the hypervisor, because you might be missing a lot of stuff. Now, there's a lot to digest here. And so I'm going to move on past this, but there are no more feature gaps, right? They no longer exist. And we make it easy to acquire our software. Now, I can't understate the importance of a fully integrated platform. And you don't have to memorize all of this stuff because there's no 10-question quiz at the end of this in order for you to get your cool football jersey. Or maybe we should do that. Maybe we should, maybe I'll take this, I'll get Krill to take this slide and feed it into ChatGPT and say, create 10 questions on this slide alone. And then we'll present that as part of the survey. Yeah, that's a great idea. I'm just kidding. Don't do that, Krill. But what you see here basically are apps and data happily coexisting. Harmony among the entire IT organization. No finger pointing, no network people saying that it's the Nutanix people, or no storage people saying it's the network people or the virtualization people, because they're all just the same people and they just work on the Nutanix stuff in a modern world using a modern platform, right? Getting rid of silos. That's the goal here. Um, Speaking of silos, actually, I have a small farm in Missouri that has a couple of grain silos. I don't use them that much because I haven't been growing corn lately, but I'm thinking about turning the silos into tiki huts or bars. Have you guys seen that? It's kind of cool. Anyway, moving on past that. Who else is running AHV? You don't want to be the guinea pig, right? Nobody wants to be the guinea pig, but as it turns out, there are no more guinea pigs. When I started at Nutanix 7.5 years ago, about 30% or so, 28 to 30% of our customers were running AHV. The rest of them were running ESX because you've always been able to put AOS on ESX until we developed our own hypervisor, which, by the way, we developed as a secure hypervisor by request from many of our government customers. Right. And then about 4 years ago, approximately 4 years ago, we hit that 50% mark, that inflection point, where we said, good enough has never been an option. So we decided that we would take on this idea that when only the best will do, which, by the way, was a tagline. And you guys remember the old Benson and Hedges cigarette commercials, when only the best will do, not comparing us to cigarette manufacturers, but I wanted to give the tagline credit where credit was due. Today, over 80% of our 20 something or 30,000 customers are running AHV, including several Fortune 10 companies. And that's a pretty good company to be in, I think. And over time, we haven't just said, oh, well, we'll just kind of stay where we're at. This ongoing continuous development, right? Always wanting to be the best choice, the best hypervisor. And you can see that in the growth of AHV.